In this movie, we'll see the story of a girl who is immortal. No force in the world can kill her. If someone tries to shoot her, the bullet would break, but nothing would happen to the girl. At the beginning of the story, we're introduced to two men, Jimmy and Joke. Zodiac had beaten Jimmy up pretty badly. He puts a cloth over Jimmy's face and drags him to a graveyard. Then, Zodiac holds Jimmy at gunpoint and forces him to dig his own grave. Jimmy, with no choice, starts digging. After digging for a while, a hand appears from underground, and it's still moving. Before Jimmy can understand what's going on, Zodiac shoots him. But nothing happens to Jimmy. He's still alive. Then Zodiac shoots him several more times, but Jimmy still doesn't die. Seizing the opportunity, Jimmy grabs Zodiac's gun and shoots him dead. After Zodiac dies, Jimmy pulls that hand out from the dirt. He sees that it belongs to a girl, and she's still alive. Jimmy is shocked. Not only did the bullets not kill him, but the girl, who had been buried underground for a long time, was still alive too. Jimmy is confused and sits in Zodiac's car with the girl. She tells Jimmy her name is Zofia. Jimmy asks her why he didn't die even after being shot so many times. Zofia doesn't answer and starts the car. As soon as the car starts, there's a massive explosion. But surprisingly, both of them survive. Even though the blast burned all their clothes, there wasn't a single scratch on their bodies. Zofia then explains that she cannot die, and if anyone keeps physical contact with her, that person also becomes immortal. When Zodiac shot at Jimmy, Zofia's hand was touching Jimmy's leg, and that's why the bullets didn't affect him either. Hearing this, Jimmy handcuffs himself to Zofia, making sure they're always touching. Now no one can harm Jimmy either. Next, we're shown a scene from 3 days earlier, how Jimmy ended up here and how he met Joke. 3 days ago, Jimmy's friend Gary tells him that they have to deliver a truck somewhere. In return, they'd be paid a large sum of money. Jimmy badly needs the money, so he agrees. They deliver the truck to a given location. Gary goes to collect the money. But then, Jimmy notices Gary has disappeared, and Joke suddenly sits next to him. From that point, Joke tortures Jimmy for 3 days, and that brings us back to the beginning of the movie. In the present, Jimmy calls Gary and asks what happened to their money. Gary says he got paid and asks Jimmy to come to his location. Jimmy says he'll be there shortly. But first, Jimmy visits a hospital with Sophia, where his father is gravely ill. Jimmy desperately needs money to pay for his treatment. After talking to his father for a while, he leaves to meet Gary. On the way, a car crashes into Jimmy and Zofia. But since Jimmy was still touching Zofia, they remain unharmed. Then another car pulls up. Inside is a man in a suit who tells them his boss wants to meet them. He takes Jimmy and Zofia along. On the other side, we're shown Jimmy's boss, the one who arranged the truck delivery. His name is Folko, and he's a powerful gangster. One of his associates had betrayed him. Folko feeds him a meal and then kills him with a sword by slicing off his head. Right then, Jimmy and Zofia arrive and are shocked by what they see. Folko sits them down and asks Jimmy about his truck. Folko tells Jimmy the truck was never delivered, meaning Jimmy must have delivered it to another gang. Folko gives Jimmy 1 day to deliver the correct truck and also asks him to deliver a second one. Jimmy and Zofia take the second truck. But now, Folko no longer trusts Jimmy. He sends 2 of his men to follow him. After a while, Jimmy shakes them off and takes the truck to a new location. He wants to see what's actually inside. When Jimmy and Zofia open the truck, they find a lot of girls locked inside. All of them have the same mark on their faces. The girls think Jimmy and Zofia kidnapped them. Jimmy tries to explain that they had nothing to do with this, but one of the girls pushes Jimmy and escapes. Shockingly, one of the girls is Jimmy's ex-girlfriend, Diana. Then we're shown a flashback from a week earlier, where Jimmy and Diana were spending time together. Diana tells Jimmy that her college is offering her a job and they're taking her to Berlin. But Jimmy doesn't want her to go. They argue and eventually break up. Back to the present. Diana was one of the kidnapped girls. All the girls were lured with fake job offers. They also tell Jimmy that something has been implanted in their stomachs, a device that might be dangerous. Jimmy promises to get them safely to a hospital. But some of the girls don't trust him and leave. Diana, however, stays with him. Meanwhile, the girl who escaped reaches a gate and says, "If you remove the thing inside my stomach, I'll tell you where the other girls are." The gate opens, and she enters. Jimmy and Zofia head to the hospital with the other girls, but Folco's men show up and begin chasing them. Jimmy tells all the girls to touch Zofia. As they do, they all become immortal. Bullets won't harm them now. They escape to the hospital. Once there, the girls let go of Zofia and run inside. Diana thanks Jimmy and follows them in. Meanwhile, the escaped girl is captured inside a house. She tells them, "If you take out what's inside me, I'll give you the other's location." They agree and hand her a remote, telling her to press the button. Without thinking, she presses it. At that moment, inside the hospital, all the girls' stomachs start making sounds, and one by one, they begin to explode. There were bombs implanted in their bodies. The button triggered the bombs. Diana also dies in the explosion. The girl who pressed the button also dies. Sitting in front of her is a young girl named Kovac. Shockingly, Kovac is the leader of this entire gang. It was her plan to implant bombs in the girls' stomachs. Now Kovac's men capture Jimmy and Zofia. They separate them by removing the handcuffs and locking them in different cells. Jimmy finds Gary in his cell. He asks Gary about the money. Gary says he was kidnapped by Kovac's people too and never got paid. Jimmy is heartbroken because he desperately needed the money for his father's treatment. Then Kovac enters. She gives Gary a metal rod and tempts him, saying if he brutally beats Jimmy, she'll let him go. Gary reluctantly starts beating Jimmy mercilessly, which amuses Kovac. Meanwhile, Zofia escapes. She also rescues the remaining girls. But Kovac spots her and orders the remaining girls to be punished with surgery. They'll have bombs implanted in their stomachs. A psycho doctor begins the procedure. He puts one girl to sleep, marks her stomach with a laser, and surgically implants a bomb. Next up is Zofia. She lies down. The doctor tries to mark her face, but Zofia doesn't react. When he injects the anesthesia, the needle bends. It doesn't pierce her. Zofia stands up and kills everyone. Even when people shoot at her, bullets don't affect her. She grabs a surgical blade and slits the doctor's throat. Then she helps the remaining girls escape. The scene shifts to a hospital. An old lady is sketching Zofia's face. Beside her is a girl named Jaya who's taking photos of the drawings. Meanwhile, Zofia escapes to a ship, where she meets Jaya. Jaya shows Zofia the old lady's sketches. Zofia asks who made them. Jaya replies, "Only Jimmy can answer that." Meanwhile, Jimmy has been captured by Kovac. He's tied upside down above a pond. Slowly, they lower him, aiming to drown him to death. Once his mouth goes underwater, he'll suffocate, exactly what Kovac wants. As Jimmy's face submerges, Kovac thinks he's dead and leaves. But suddenly, Zofia appears underwater and touches Jimmy. Now he becomes immortal in the water too. She unties him and brings him out. Zofia then reveals her secret. The old lady drawing her portrait is a witch. That witch cursed Zofia to never die. Zofia is over 100 years old, but her age hasn't changed, and nothing can kill her. But immortality isn't a blessing for her. It's a curse. She's tired of this long life and just wants to die. Zofia says there's only one way to lift the curse. The old lady, the witch, must teach her a chant. When Zofia speaks that chant, whoever hears it will become immortal, and Zofia will be free to die. Jimmy gets an idea. He asks Zofia to use the chant on his father, who is very ill and close to dying. If his father becomes immortal, Zofia can finally die. Zofia shows him the sketch made by the old lady. Jimmy immediately recognizes her. She's in the same hospital where his father is. Jimmy and Zofia reach the hospital, but Kovac and Folco have also arrived outside. They both want to kill Jimmy for betraying them. Inside, Jimmy and Zofia find the old lady, who's now close to death. Jimmy brings his father and pleads for the chant to be told quickly. Just then, Folko and Kovac's men enter. The old lady whispers the chant to Zofia before dying. One of Folko's men attacks, but Emma arrives and rescues them. She fights off the attackers. Outside, Kovac's men also start shooting. Emma hides Jimmy's father while Jimmy grabs Zofia's hand. Now bullets can't harm them. Jimmy's father, shocked, picks up a gun and shoots both Folko and Kovac. And here comes the twist. Jimmy's father is actually the biggest mafia boss in town. Folko and Kovac were working for him. He had Jimmy captured to use him because Jimmy had a special ability to find Zofia. He wanted Zofia to speak the chant to him so he could become immortal and rule his business forever. Hearing this, Jimmy is devastated. He had done everything to save his father, even risked death. But now he learns his father was the one who set him up. Jimmy's father had already met Zofia, but she never shared the chant, so they buried her alive. Broken, Jimmy tells Zofia not to share the chant with his father. He takes her and leaves. His father shoots at them, but Zofia is holding Jimmy's hand. Bullets have no effect. The next morning, we see the dead bodies of Folko and Kovac. A girl turns over Kovac's body. Her face is half blown off, but she's still alive. And with that suspense, the movie ends. This was the first part of the movie. If you want to see part 2, make sure to subscribe to my channel.